Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And we have another, I'm calling it quick and easy and very pretty project to do today because, I mean, who doesn't want to be able to whip something up to go with anything, any outfit that you want to wear very, very quickly? On the other hand, who wants to spend a lot of time in beautiful weather sitting inside and making something? So we're going to combine we want to be able to do it with we want to be able to do it quickly. And we're going to make a nice little bracelet that consists of a bar of beads of your choice, and a chain, and you're going to make your own hook clasp. Easy peasy. So what I've done here, I used amethyst for this one. Very pretty. But what I'm going to do today, because we're coming up on Independence Day here in the United States, is I'm going to use some red, white, and blue chip beads. In case you haven't noticed, I've been using a lot of chip beads over the last couple of weeks because I have so many. And I have had so many people say, what do I do with all these beads? I don't want to get rid of them, but they were left over from another project, and I just want to do something with them. So I've been trying to come up with different ways that you can use your chip beads that don't look like an afterthought and are really pretty, but very simple to do. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make this lovely little chip bead bracelet, and all we need is some wire. Now, let me explain about the wire. Chip beads are, they're not uniformly cut, and a lot of times they are drilled very, very tiny holes. So you might want to look around and see what kind of wire will go through the chips that you have. I kind of rooted around. I started with 20 gauge, 18 gauge way too big. 20 gauge was too big for some of the chips, but not all of the chips, which is really annoying. So I finally settled on 22 gauge wire that would go through all of the chips and provide the necessary strength for my piece. So today we're using 22 gauge wire for our bar for the beads. We're using chain, and I thought we'd use some little seed beads. I thought I'd do something a little different. And instead of just doing plain loops, I incorporated a little seed bead in each of the loops just to have something different. And so that's what we're going to do today. It's very, very simple, easy to do, and it comes out really pretty. So that's what we're going to do today. That's what we're going to make. And let's go down to the other camera after I tell you what you need. I started to, then I got off track. 22 gauge wire, chain, any kind of chain that you would like, any kind of beads that you would like as well. I'm using seed beads. You don't want to make them too large because you want it to be, it's going to be kind of delicate on your wrist. But I'm using chip beads and seed beads to incorporate into my loops. What else? And then you need your usual pliers, your round nose, your square nose or chain nose pliers, your cutters, and a ruler to measure your chain and your wire. That's it. That's it. That's the whole 9 yards. So let's go down to the other camera and let's get started. Okay. So I said I was going Independence Day. So what I've got here are some little red coral beads, some white turquoise, and some, what are these? I forget these blue beads. Somebody, if you remember the name, tell me. But I can't, it's off the top of my head. It just went away. Anyway, I've got red, white, and blue, and I have some little red seed beads that I'm going to incorporate into my little loops. Let's see if you can see that. A little blurry. I feel like I'm always trying to get my camera to focus. There we go. So I just put a little seed bead in my loop. just for something different. And that's it. Beads, beads, wire, chain. That's it. You don't need anything else. So let's get this party started. So the first thing I'm going to do is get 6 inches of my 22 gauge wire. And when I finish, what I want is to have, for me, a 2.5 inch bar, because that lays perfectly across my wrist, like so. Not too big, not too small. And so I need about 6 inches so that it'll accommodate my loops and my wraps and my beads. So I'm giving myself 6 inches of wire. And the first thing I'm going to do is make a loop on one end of my bar. So I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to bend it back about a little more than an inch, about 1 1/8 inches. Doesn't have to be much more than that, but I'm going to be making a nice big loop and I want to have enough to wrap the loop as well. So I'm going to bend the back of my wire at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to slide my wire down my pliers until I get near the back of my pliers, like so. And then I'm going to bring that short tail of wire around, across and around my pliers and let it rest underneath. Then I'm going to open my pliers, rotate back, close it again, and bring that wire, that short tail, all the way under until I have an open loop. Then I'm going to leave that the way it is. I'm not going to wrap it yet because there are some other things that need to be incorporated in there. And now I'm ready to put my beads on. You can put the beads on in any way that you want. I'm just going to go traditional red, white, and blue. So let's just go ahead and put those beads on. Again, you can do like I did with my amethyst bracelet. You can just use one color. You can use 2 colors. You can use a different color bead all the way through. And that might be really neat because a lot of times you end up with a bunch of chip beads in different colors. And this would be a wonderful way to display all of those colors on a bracelet. Okay, so I've got my red ones, my white turquoise, and let's get the blue ones on there. And find the little hole. There it is. Goes on. And as you can see, I have a lot left over. Darn it, Virginia, what a waste. But it's long enough, fortunately, that I should be able to use this wire for something else when I need to. So what I'm going to do is make another loop on the other side. I want it to be going in the same direction as this loop. So I'm going to bend it back, just like I did on this side. Grab my pliers, slide it down to almost the very back of my pliers, that wire, slide it down to the back of my pliers, wrap that tail around till I can't go any further over that one tooth of my pliers, rotate my pliers back, clamp down again, and finish my loop. So there's my second loop. And again, I want them both to be laying in the same direction so you can see that they are. So now I left it open for a reason, because I need to add some things to it. But we're not going to do that yet. We're just going to set this to the side and we're going to move on and make our hook clasp. And because I'm using 22 gauge wire, now that's determined the type of hook I'm going to make. And I want to double my wire to make sure that it's strong enough to accommodate my hook. So what I want for straighten it out a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, so what I want for my clasp is about 4 inches, 4 to 4.5 inches, just to make sure, because by the time I finish making my clasp, I need to double it over and I need to wrap it and I need a loop. It's going to take about 4 inches to do all of that. So I'm going to clip off 4 inches of wire. Then I'm going to measure about 1.25 inches from the end, from the tip of my wire. So I've got about 1.25 inches of wire here. And I'm going to fold it over like so. You can use your pliers. Just fold it, squeeze that together until the wires are side by side. 22 gauge wire is pretty soft, so you should be able to squeeze this together with your fingers. And you can also use your pliers, especially if you're using a stronger wire like 20 or 18 gauge. You can just use your pliers and squeeze that together. Until the wires are just side by side. There we go, just like so. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go down here to the bottom and I'm going to bend. I want about 1 inch of wire here because when I fold it over to make my clasp, I'm going to have about 1/2 inch left. So I'm going to measure about 1 inch away from the rounded tip of my wire. That's going to leave me enough to wrap. So I'm going to take this little end here, which is about 3/8 to 1/2 inch, and I'm going to fold it up like so. And now I'm going to wrap that around the tail of my wire. So let's hold on to it with my pliers, and I'm going to wrap this little tail around the stem of my wire. And you only need about 1.5 wraps. You don't need a lot of wraps. 1.5 to 2 is plenty. When it gets too short for me to do with my fingers, I just use my pliers until I get my 1.5 to 2 wraps. And then I'm going to clip off that tiny little tail. And now it's too short for me to hold on to, and I don't want it to go flying off across the room. So I'm going to bring in this little container that has a little hole in it, and I'm going to clip it so that that end falls down into the container. Did it? Nope, it stayed right there. But it didn't fly across the room, which is what I did not want it to do. Perfect. Then I'm going to push my little end down with my pliers. Don't want anything sticking up. And I always try to make sure that I cut it right in between the two edges of wire. So it's cut right here, right in between the two. So that when I fold this over, that edge is going to be hidden under my hook. It won't catch on anything, which is perfect. So now I'm going to leave that alone because I can make my hook later. Now I'm going to make my loop on the other side. So I want my loop to be flat and my hook be going in the opposite direction. So my loop is flat, my hook is going to be facing down. So here's my hook. It's going to be going this way, up and down. My loop is going to be going right and left. So I'm going to bend my wire back like so. Take my pliers. Again, I'm going to slide the wire back to the very back of my pliers. Wrap that tail around my pliers, again, until I can't go any further. Then I'm going to open up my pliers, rotate it, clamp back down, and bring that tail all the way around and under my pliers until I have a loop. Now see, this is just a tiny, tiny bit off center. So in order to fix that, I'm just going to rotate that loop a little bit forward until it's resting the way I want it to. Just like so. And again, I'm going to leave that open because I have to put some other things in there and I don't want to wrap it up yet. So let's go back to our bar. I need to determine how much chain I need for the rest of my bracelet. I have 2.5 inches here, approximately 2.5 inches. And then you need to measure your wrist to see how much more you need in chain. For me, that's about 5 inches. And I would give myself just a little bit more. You can always cut off what you don't need, but if you don't have enough, you have to start all over. And that's annoying. And we're going to need 2 pieces. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces, 5 inches each. And then measure the second piece, the exact same size. Cut that off. There we go. And I like to double check, make sure they're the same size. Got one little extra length there. I'm going to cut that off. Yeah, here we go. Double check, double check, double check. Double, triple, triple, double. Yeah, I still have an extra length here. Put that off of there. And I like to put my hand over the links because they'll go flying too. So just to be safe. There we go. So now it's time to put everything together. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take my chain on one side of my bar, and I'm going to slide the very last link down the short tail of my wire and into my loop. Then I'm going to take a seed bead and I'm going to slide that in down that tail of wire and into my loop. Oops. Come back here. Okay. And now you can see why we needed to make these loops so large, because they need to accommodate my bead. If I make them too small, the bead's not going to fit. And then I'm going to take the second piece of my chain and I'm going to slide that last link down into my loop, like so. And now I'm going to close this loop up, grab my pliers, hold on to the face of my loop, and just wrap 2 or 3 times. That's all you need. You don't need half a dozen wraps, just enough to secure your loop. And you can cut off what you don't need as close as I can get to the stem. Again, I do not, repeat, not want that little tail to go flying across the room. So I will incorporate my little opening here, snip that off, put that to the side. There's that little piece, yay. Then take my pliers and push that little end down so it doesn't snag on anything. Nice and snug. There we go. So there's one side of my bracelet. Now, the other side of your chain is going to go into my hook. So let's try this on, and it depends on how loose you want your bracelet to be. Now, when I put my bar on, you don't want it sticking straight out. Notice how I've curved it around so that it will fit the curve of my arm. See that? It lays nice and neat on my arm. And then I need to determine how much of my chain I want to keep. Do I want it nice and loose? Do I want it tighter? It's up to you. You've also got to remember that you need to incorporate the amount of space that your hook is going to take up. So let's go ahead and make the hook part of my clasp. So what I'm going to do is bend this hook part. This is the part that's going to make my hook. I'm going to bend it back until it's almost in the direction of the face of my loop. So I'm bending it back like so. And I'm going to grab my pliers and I'm going to slide my wire down to the back of my pliers. I'm giving myself about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, no more than that, of space between my loop and my hook. Then I'm going to bring the tail of my hook over my pliers all the way around, like so. And there's my little shepherd's hook. And then I'm going to take the little tip of my pliers and I'm going to give it a little ledge, like so. So there's my hook. Neat, huh? Easy peasy. So now I'm going to attach my hook to the other side of my chain. I'm going to start with the very last link, slide that on my chain. And then I'm going to grab one of my seed beads and slide that down that short tail of wire and into my loop. And then I'm going to put the other piece of chain, slide it down the tail of my wire all the way down into my loop. There we go. Sure everything's nicely lined up. So there we have that. And now I want to close up the loop on my hook. I'm going to grab my pliers, hold on to the face of my my wire, my loop, and I'm going to wrap that short tail over the other wraps. And I just need 2 wraps. Let's wrap that around 2 times. And I'm going to let it end under my hook. It's actually 2.5 times. There we go. Sneaking that up a little bit. There we go. Snip off that tail. And this is long enough for me to hold on to. That's nice. Put that to the side and push down that end. And I want this to lay underneath. Underneath my hook so that it won't catch on anything on the side. So this is probably a little further over to the side than I want. Because when I clipped it over here. So I'm going to cut it a little further underneath here. So that when I push it down, it rests under my hook. There we go. And straighten out my little hook here. A little discombobulated. There we go. And there's my hook. And now I can close up my other side of my bar. All I need for that is one of my little seed beads. Slide that in there. And you don't have to put it in, you don't have to put another bead in. I was just going for consistency. But this is where the hook is going to go. So if you don't want that bead in there, you don't have to have that bead. In fact, what I did was put 2 beads in, just because, why not? So I'm going to slide 2 beads in my little loop. And then when I hook it, I'll have beads on either side. Just because I wanted to. What can I say? Okay, so now I'm going to wrap it closed. And if you're using your round nose pliers to hold the face of your loop, just remember not to clamp down too hard because it can put little dents in your wire and you don't want that. All you were trying to do is hold it steady. So all you need is just enough pressure to hold it in place. There we go. Got my wraps. Clip that off. Clip that end. Nice and close. There we go. And push down that tail so it doesn't snag on anything. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is my bracelet. There it is. That's it. That's all there is to it. Very, very easy, very, very simple. Get my chains to line up here. Here we go. There it is. There's my bracelet. Neat, huh? I love them. So easy to make. And again, when you shape this, you want to give it a little bit of a curve because you don't want it to be sticking straight out on the sides of your wrist. And another little trick, I always try to push the ends of my hook together so that when I put it on and take it off, it kind of snaps into place, but it won't slide out as easily. So I try to make sure it's backed right up against my wraps. So that it has a little bit of snap to it when you put it on. So let's see what I have here. Let's put on my bracelet. Slide that on, hook it in place. Here we go. And there it is. There's my bracelet. Ta-da! Little hook, my little beads. Everything's coordinated. Yay, 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 yay. Neat, huh? It's so easy. It's so, so simple to do. I love them. Should I put this one on? They don't go together. That's okay. You know, you can make several of these and wear them all together. Why not? I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. Oh, that is pretty. Now that I'm looking at it. Oh, wow. I could do a bunch of them. Just do a bunch of them up my arm. Oh, I just got an idea. Anyway, that is our piece for today. So simple, so easy. Takes whatever kind of beads you would like. They need to be semi-small. You don't want them to be huge. You want some chain, some very basic chain. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or expensive. Some seed beads if you want to dress up your little loops a little bit, like I did. Not necessary. It was just a little extra something that I thought would be nice to give it a little extra oomph. Beads, chain, craft or artistic wire. That's all you need to make these lovely, lovely bracelets. In just a few minutes, it really doesn't take more than half an hour, 45 minutes tops. And once you really get rolling on this, you can crank these babies out in about 20 minutes and be all finished. That's it. That's our piece for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing it. That's it. Nice and easy. Make your own. Show me what you make. Please, please post. I always say this a lot. And every once in a while, I'll get somebody who sends me some kind of a response on jewelrygen20@gmail.com or asks me a question or asks where you can get some things and things like that. And I love to hear that. Every once in a while, I get people who send me pictures of the things that they've made on the Gmail, or you can post it on the DeKalb County Library Facebook page. Either one. We just like to see your progress and see your creativity. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. Or you can get in touch with us at the Facebook page /DeKalb Library. And we are in Decatur, Georgia, by the way, in DeKalb County, Georgia. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get some feedback. I'd love to know what you think, what you thought, if everything was clear, if anything wasn't clear, if you have any thoughts or ideas on how things can run a little smoother, or maybe you have some ideas of some things that you would like to see us do in the future. Either way, please contact us. We would really like to hear from you. Until next time, please enjoy the rest of your week and have a great weekend. So long.